Forbes has come out with a list of the highest paid actors and actresses, and there's some really, really interesting stuff here. So let's take a look at the 5 highest paid actors and actresses. Okay, so number 1 for the women, Sandra Bullock. She pulled in $51 million last year. Jennifer Lawrence, $34 million. Jennifer Aniston, $31 million. That one kind of surprised me because she doesn't seem to be doing that much. Gwyneth Paltrow, 19. Angelina Jolie, 18. So the top 10 females added up to $226 million. We're just showing you the top 5 there. And then for the men, Robert Downey Jr., $75 million. Dwayne Johnson, I mean, I just saw G.I. Joe 2. Really? $52 million. Bradley Cooper, $46 million. Leonardo DiCaprio, $39. And Chris Hemsworth, $37 million. And the top 10 men added up to $419 million. So I'm going to start where you brought us, Nikki, before the show started. You brought up an interesting point about box office. You want to bring up that first, and then we'll go from there.
I'd be interested to know like what Sandra Bullock has brought in terms of box office numbers versus Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Because if they're both relatively the same, and Sandra's still getting like half the amount of money that Robert Downey Jr. is getting, then that's really an imbalance. But if Robert Downey Jr. is bringing in twice as much to the box office than Sandra Bullock, then I look at that and I go, well, if he's bringing in $1 billion and she's bringing in half, then yeah, you should pay him more.
Right. So okay. So we don't know that specifically.
We don't know.
I think it's a great point.
Yeah.
But so just using the information we have, there still does seem to be an issue with.
Yeah. Then screw the man.
Well, come on, ladies, fight for your women here. What's going on?
If Robert Downey was pulling in twice the box office, I think the more fundamental problem is that the movies that are being written are being written for leading men. And so, yes, he's going to be pulling in more box office if the scripts that are out there and available and the movies that are being funded are all movies where men are the leads.
Right.
And this is historic in Hollywood. Like, I worked in the sciences for a long time before I came into production, and I started working in front and behind the camera. And people talk about sexism in STEM all the time, right? Science, technology, engineering, math, and how women don't have the opportunities that men have, and how we're working really to push through the glass ceiling. And when I got to production, I thought it would be a relief. Oh my fucking God, it's almost worse. It's almost worse in Hollywood than it is in the sciences. Women don't have as many opportunities available to them. So if they don't have those opportunities, they're not going to be able to get the box office, and granted, we're talking about people like Sandra Bullock, who still made like, what, $50 million? Like at a certain point, it's like, I don't give a shit, right? But if we actually translated that down to the camera operators,
that's
to
what
the
I was going to say.
crew,
Like to women who have a chance. I mean, I work on a show where finally this season we were able to get some female directors on the show. But we had, besides the creator herself, we had not had any, in 3 seasons, female directors. And it's like, where are these women? They're out there, but they're not getting the same opportunities. DPs,
especially
ADs.
Camera, grip, gaff, like you just don't
Electric,
see women
right.
that often.
No, you really don't. So like, that's where the big struggle is. I do think that
How much though is that women don't necessarily gravitate to those jobs? I mean, are there a lot of women that want to be doing camera work? Yeah.
Yes, they're actually.
I had a female jib operator on the last show. Like, I did a daily live show on Pivot for almost a year, and the jib, which is one of the hardest cameras to operate, it's really heavy. She was female. She was amazing. She obviously wanted to be in camera op. I just don't think. Also, I don't think that society says like that's a job you should have as a girl. Like as a girl, you should be in front of the camera, or you
wardrobe,
or wardrobe, makeup. Yes,
hair, makeup, and wardrobe.
I can tell you, they're almost always women.
For the record, our director Amira is a girl, and she's fantastic, doing a hell of a job right over there.
I will say, I do want to say that I do think it is changing in terms of female leads. You know, Hunger Games is a good example. Sandra Bullock in Gravity, Angelina Jolie in every action movie she's ever done. I think that it is changing. It is getting better. So that's something positive. I would like to know what the international value of those men are as opposed to the women, because that also could have something to do with it.
You mean with like endorsement deals?
Well, no, I mean in terms of like, does it box office internationally? internationally. Like, are people internationally more likely to go see a Robert Downey Jr. film than they are a Sandra Bullock film or a Jennifer Aniston film? Dwayne Johnson, he's really big internationally. So
why? Why does he make a
because
lot
they
of
like
money?
strong men.
He's big and
so
buff, and there's a lot of
weird.
explosions. But that, I think, is part of it. That's a lot of this isn't all equal information, because if Robert Downey Jr. is in Iron Man, people love going to those movies.
yes.
You know what I mean? Versus
Yes,
Gravity, which I absolutely loved.
But Gravity made a lot of money.
No, and
but Gravity was more of a
did really
thinker.
well. But it was
Let's be real.
It was a slow burn.
You're right.
Let's you have to look at the whole.
Let's look at all the action heroes out there. We have to put. I mean, it's newsworthy when there's a female action hero, a comic hero, and okay, now we're going to make a movie about that. But like most of them are men.
I mean, just right now, you can look at every billboard here in Los Angeles for Expendables 3. There's about 87 men.
And one.
Is there a woman?
There's always
one
Oh, there is one
I think
woman?
it's
hot
Adrienne. I forget her name. She was actually, they did a Wonder Woman pilot, and that failed and tanked. But I think it's her that's in that. But there's, I was looking at it. It's on a huge building on Sunset Boulevard. I was like, oh, look at all those men and one woman.
That's hilarious, because I've seen it.
So maybe that's what we're talking about here.
I mean, I've seen that probably 50 times, and every time I'm looking, is there a woman? Is there a woman? Is there? How did also Kelsey Grammer? How did he become an action star?
He's
I don't
an
know.
action star?
Well, somehow he's in it, so I don't know how that happened. All right, last thought on this. Just the numbers. You know, we say these numbers. 50 million, 75 million, blah blah blah. Like it's nothing. Like these people are literally making more than we all make. Like in
ever in our whole lives.
Yeah. I don't know which way I was going to go with that,
but they should.
Should they?
As an actress, tell me why. Tell me why they should.
Listen. Okay, because we make a lot. We make those companies very, very rich.
Yeah.
We make those companies very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
And it's Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock is selling that movie. People are going to see it because she is in it.
Yeah.
You know? So she should get paid a lot of money, because if you knew the kind of money that they are making on the other end, you'd be like, oh, well then yeah, she should be making that amount of money for carrying a movie and making it sell.
Right, but is there a point where they price themselves out? Because I went to see Planet of the Apes last week, and literally a popcorn and a soda was more than the ticket. You know what I mean? Like, is the rest of that where people are eventually going to be like, you know what, I'm just not going to go
Well, I
and
like
spend
that we're
50
seeing
bucks.
that. I mean, because I do think that we've got our priorities a bit unbalanced in this country, and I do think that it's a bit weird that Sandra Bullock makes $50 million in a year, but we do that. We make that decision.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing with professional athletes. Like, they make so much money. It's insane how. And then you've got, obviously here comes like the fucking like PBS, like here comes the NPR like socialist over here. But like, yeah, exactly. First responders, teachers, whatever, like they don't make nearly the same kind of money. I think you're right. Sandra Bullock deserves that given the current landscape. I think the current landscape is weird. And I do think it's kind of cool that we're starting to see that change. You're starting to see the rise of the YouTube star. You're starting to see the rise of the individual self-made person.
It's shifting. It really, really, really is shifting, where people can make a web series and own their own content. And that is power now.
And they can actually live off of it. Like, it is not... All over LA, we're seeing these like co-op kind of places pop up, where there are these writing studios and these kind of where people own their own business, but they don't want to buy a whole storefront, and they don't want to work in an apartment, so they pay like $200 to be a part of this group, and they can go have a desk. And the reason that is happening is because so many people are making it. They're actually making enough money to get by on their own as an entity.
I guess for me, I think, you have to look at it in the context. If you're making a movie that's going to gross $500 million or whatever it is, and you're the face of that, yes, you should get a large percentage of that. But if you're making an indie film and you have no idea what it's going to make, and you just want to do it, it's a great script and you want to do it, you get scale and you show up and you do your job, or $100 a day, and then you say, hey, I'll take 2 percentage points of the back end if this thing ends up doing really well, because I gave you my face, I did my time, but you don't have to pay me up front. I think that it is in the context. What movie are you making? What is going to be the box office? And if you keep bringing the money in, you should get paid.
And that's what being an artist is all about, right? You do some stuff for money and you do some stuff for passion.
And that's also a really good point. I know I gotta keep it short, but like the other day I was talking online about how I want to get an electric car, and I was asking for advice, and every response was, get a Tesla Model S. And I was like, I feel like I shouldn't have to point this out, but I can't fucking afford a Tesla Model S. And I literally got responses from people like, you're on TV and you can't afford that car.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just think that there's what ends up happening is that Sandra Bullock makes $50 million, and so people go, anybody who I've ever seen in front of the screen is rich.
Yeah.
And what they don't understand is, in a movie like that, 2 people get top billing. They might make $5 million each, and then everybody underneath it makes like $800 a day.
And can I also point out at one last point? I'm sorry.
I like how the
up.
defense of the actors. Yeah.
Because also, all of our money goes away. We get paid $10,000 and we get $1,000 of it because there's taxes, okay, and then
which is like half.
Which is like half, because they think that you make that year round and you don't.
You make it
you
like
do a project
1
for
week.
1 week, and they're like, oh, you make that all year, so we're gonna take half of your money, and then outside of that, you have to pay a lawyer, and you have to pay an agent, and you have to pay a manager. Then if you're on a show like me, you have to pay a publicist, and then you have to pay a stylist.
But your publicist showed up, so that's pretty good. So we know she's working at least.
She's like,
she's like, stop talking. And so I'm just saying, like, the amount of money that we have to dish out to actually just do our job is insane.
all that being said,
I want $50 million.
all that being said, we're still very lucky to be able to have a creative job where we have a creative outlet, a job we love, where I can at least make rent.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's like I make
up.
rent, and I'm about to pay $199 a month for a lease on a new electric car, and I'm very happy that I can afford to do that.
So you're getting a Prius.
I'm getting, I think, a Chevy Spark. And it's so cute.
And the Spark, that's the new electric one.
It's very cute. Oh, John Iadarola drives one.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know if you're a regular TYT viewer.
For the record, I do want to just say I actually am in the 1%. It's the other 1%, but it's the wrong 1% the other way. I'm closer. I'm actually closer to that 1% certainly than the other 1%.
But you wear it well.
H&M, man. H&M.